Hello friends, this is Viraj and welcome to this discussion of OPSC mains papers. And today we'll be basically dealing with the topic of security. So there were basically two questions asked and in security, and both the questions were related to cyber security. All right, both of them to an extent were the questions which were of a bit of advanced level. Okay, so they were not questions ki they were not questions which could generally be easily solved by an aspirant who is not well versed with cyber security as such. Okay, any which ways we'll look into them. We'll try to get into them, and we'll try to uh, formulate formulate an approach to them. So the first question basically was, define the 7 layers of cybersecurity. What are vulnerabilities, its types, threats, and harmful acts? So second part of this question is not so difficult as such, but first part is, because it goes into the technicalities of cybersecurity. So what are the 7 layers of cybersecurity? To If the 7 layers of cybersecurity are to be looked into, the first layer of cybersecurity is with respect to mission critical assets. Security of mission critical assets. All right, this particular form of cybersecurity, this particular layer of cybersecurity basically is the most important, and it contains the most important data you can see, and most important organizational most important organizational documents, organizational systems that are necessary. Okay, second is of course data security. It relates to data security, relates to safeguarding the storage, safeguarding data security. It involves safeguarding and storage. Safeguarding and storage, and also transfer of data. Okay, it involves inscriptions, it involves access controls, it involves data loss. Okay, prevention of data loss mechanism. All of those things are involved in data security. The third layer of cyber security is application security. In application security, application security, what is it? It is basically gateways to your mission critical statement. Okay, so application security is basically the way through which you get into mission critical assets. Okay, this layer will ensure basically secure internal and external access control. Okay, internal and external access control. Done. Moving on to endpoint security. Endpoint security is basically security that protects your devices. Endpoint security is the one that protects devices. Okay, then we come to network security. Network security basically are the firewalls that protect access of any organization. So they are internet firewalls basically. Network security is or are internal firewalls. Okay. Perimeter security, it is physical and digital security methods. Okay, they are like boundaries. They are like boundaries to the entire perimeter security. Is basically border, that is created around a particular firewall. Basically ना it is part of the firewall, ठीक है, but yes some experts do consider it to be a separate entity. And then we have the human layer, ठीक है. Human layer का security मतलब when a person, breach of human layer security is basically when a person, you know, leaks the leaks the information through his initiative, and this is considered at this point of time human layer security is considered to be weakest link. It is basically considered to be the weakest link. All right, if you talk about vulnerabilities, its types, so first and foremost with respect to vulnerabilities, what are vulnerabilities? Vulnerabilities basically are flaws. They are basically flaws that are developed in systems design, security or control. Systems design or control, ठीक है. What are the types of vulnerability? First and foremost there is network vulnerability, ठीक है. There is basically network vulnerability. Types of vulnerabilities अगर मैं देखूं, if I want to look into types of vulnerabilities, first and foremost there is the vulnerability of network, ठीक है. In vulnerability of network there will be flaw in the hardware or software, of the system. Second is operating system vulnerability. In operating system vulnerability, what will basically happen? Operating system vulnerability. In this, what will basically happen in operating system vulnerability? In operating system vulnerability, na, there will be malware in the OS itself. Alright, there will be malware in the OS itself. And then we come to human vulnerability, that is negligence. Human vulnerability basically is negligence that leads to weakness in the system. And process vulnerability. So specific, it may happen that a specific control of the process is not foolproof, or the specific process of the control does not achieve complete, you know, it is not basically prepared to the complete satisfaction. That is process vulnerability. Some part of the control remains unprotected. Alright, some part of the control remain unprotected, and due to this what happens is harmful acts happen. There are risks that come up. Okay, there are threats that may come up. For example, in threats, what do we see? There can be phishing, there can be unauthorized account access. Threats may there can be phishing. Phishing is basically copying the system, and then there can be also unauthorized access. All right, it may lead to, there can be also a threat of unintentional, there can be also threat of Unintentional, देखो these are the intentional ना, there can be also threat of unintentional loss of data. Loss of data, and there can be there can be a natural damage to the system also. Natural damage to the system. So these are the traits. These basically are the traits that a particular organization may have because of lack of cyber security. All right, so this was your answer. It was for 20 marks and therefore a lot had to be written. Some of it was oriented towards technicality, no problem, we have dealt with them. Moving on next to the second question. Okay, this question is not that difficult if you take into consideration current affairs, because you read about it consistently when it comes to newspapers. So what is the question? What is data privacy and its elements? Okay, explain different types of data breaches, define data linkage and profiling. All right, so what are the elements that we have to write? First and foremost, data privacy related, and for that we have to first and foremost define data privacy. We have to first and foremost define data privacy. What is data privacy? Data privacy is the ability of an individual to control how information with respect to him or his organization in cyber security is protected. ठीक है, data privacy is an ability. It is basically ability of individual to protect individual or organizational also data. This basically is data privacy. All right, this basically is data privacy. It basically involves safeguarding leak of information, leak of unauthorized information, leak of unauthorized access, misuse of the information, or exposure of that information without consent. This is what data privacy is. Major elements of data privacy, if you take into consideration, major elements of data privacy are, so first is consent. There has to be consent with respect to use of that data. Second, there has to be transparency when it comes to use of that data. There has to be transparency with the way in which consent is taken, and there has to be transparency with respect to how or whether the data is basically communicated or shared on the basis of the consent taken. For example, when you download a particular software and when you give the consent, now most of the times we do not read that consent form. All right, we do not read that consent form. But any which ways, if my data is used according to that particular consent form, that is completely all right. Companies, what they do is they provide us with the consent form because that shows transparency. That shows where that data will be used, if it is used, and how that data will be basically secured. Security of data, next element. Security of the data, next element. And last but not the least, compliance. So these are the four major elements of data privacy. Now moving on to data breach. What is data breach? Data breach is basically, data breach, types of data breach लिखना है ना, you have to write types of data breach, before that define data breach. So data breach basically is unauthorized access. Unauthorized access unauthorized access to a particular database. ठीक है, whatever the database might be, and whatever type of instrument basically holding the data. For example, there can be laptop, there can be mobile phone. ठीक है, getting into someone's mobile phone and getting into the access of information which you are not supposed to do is also a data breach. ठीक है, that is also basically a data breach. So it is unauthorized access to a database. The database can be through any instrument. All right, what are the different types? What are the different types of data breaches? ठीक है, first is stolen information. First is basically stolen information. Data stolen due to human error. Second is ransomware. ठीक है, what happens in ransomware? Data is basically stolen, and for the purpose of not leaking it, money is taken. Then we have password guessing. Where you try to get into a person's profile through guessing the password. ठीक है, basically trying to guess the password of that particular person. It is also unauthorized. Recording keystrokes basically means concentrating on what keys on a laptop or what keys on a keypad are stuck by a particular person. It is recording keystrokes. ठीक है, then it is phishing. Phishing is deceptive mails, sending deceptive mails, and through those deceptive mails, what do you basically do? You get access to the confidential information in the system. Then we have virus, all malware. Or virus. Due to it, what basically happens? The data system fails. ठीक है, the data system might basically fail. It could lead to infiltration. Of malicious softwares into a particular system. And then we have DDoS, that is distributed denial of services. DDoS. What it does is it will disrupt the services. It will basically disrupt the services and potentially expose the data. All right, potentially expose the data. Data linkage and profiling. Okay, now let us go to what are data leakages and profiling. Data linkage basically means connecting related data from different sources. All right, and data profiling, it is the process of assessing quality, structure, and content of the data. Data profiling. Data profiling basically is assessing quality, structure, and content of data. All right, friends, so these were your two answers with respect to security. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll meet soon. Best of luck. Enjoy your vacation. You must have put in a lot of hard work when it comes to state services. People do put in a lot of hard work. This is my humble request to you. This is my advice to you. You take a small vacation. After that, how it has to be planned, we are with you. ठीक है, how things are to be planned, we will look into it, we will talk about it, and good luck, best of luck. ठीक है, bye.